Hey guys, I'm Fisi and I'm doing a bit of a different video today because Formula 1 is finally back for another season. I believe this is actually my first proper video dedicated to talking about real life F1, and what I'm going to be doing is to give you guys my season predictions for the 2014 season with regards to both the teams and the drivers. I'm kind of doing this in a bit of a hurry because I want the video out before any competitive running takes place for the season, meaning before the Australian Grand Prix qualifying session, which is only a few hours away, so exciting times. And just to point out, first of all, that I'm not in any way a technical expert when it comes to analyzing cars and testing performance and stuff like that, but I'll be giving my predictions based on the general impressions that I've got from following F1 in the media over the winter testing period that has just taken place, and obviously 2 Melbourne practice sessions have also taken place at the time I'm recording this, but that hasn't actually affected the order of the teams on my prediction list. And just to make it clear, this is not my predictions for the race in Australia, this is my predictions for how the standings will look at the end of the whole season. And I'm very interested to see your predictions as well, so feel free to make your own prediction list and leave it as a post in the comments below, and I will go through them and see what you guys think as well. I might well end up being completely wrong on a lot of this, but whatever, let's just crack on with the list. So, starting off down at the bottom in 11th place, where I put the Caterham team. Unfortunately, I think it will be the same story as in previous seasons at the back of the field. All of the regulation changes has kind of offered the backmarker teams, in lack of a better word, an opportunity to close the gap a little. But for me, Caterham hasn't shown anything over the winter testing, apart from maybe, you know, they got a decent amount of mileage on the board compared to the other Renault-powered teams. But other than that, they haven't done anything to suggest to me that this is the season when they'll finally start moving up the field. The positive, of course, is that it's nice to see Kamui Kobayashi back on the grid again, because he's usually quite an exciting driver to watch, but even his mad overtaking skills can't help Caterham if their car lacks general pace. So I think Caterham will end up right at the back for the second season in a row. Next up in 10th, I have got Marussia. Same story as Caterham really. I don't think they'll be progressing enough up the field in the way they want to. Based on the final Bahrain test, they did actually end a few sessions in the mid-table in terms of lap times, and they've got a solid looking engine this season after securing the deal with the Ferrari. I think the battle between Caterham and Marussia at the back of the field will be close again, as it's usually been, and it could well be a freak result for either team that decides that battle in the end. If, for example, half of the cars break down and fails to finish the race in Australia, for example, and Max Chilton just flukes into the points by just finishing the race. And that could happen, obviously, for Caterham as well, but I don't think that's too likely, so generally I'd say that Marussia have a slight advantage at this moment and will get that financially important 10th place in the championship again. In 9th place for my predictions, I've got Toro Rosso. They're a team that is just consistently unspectacular, and I don't think this season will be too much different for them. They've got what currently seems like the weakest engine with the Renault package, and although they kind of smashed the parent team Red Bull on mileage during testing, I think they'll continue on where they left off in the lower parts of the midfield and will struggle to get into the points this season. John-Eric Verne has been occasionally impressive, but mostly invisible in his 2 years in F1, and so it'll be interesting to see if he can show anything more this season, and it'll also be interesting to see how the 19-year-old Daniel Kvyat, if I said that correctly, gets on in his first season, him obviously being the youngest driver on the grid. So moving on to 8th place, where I've got Lotus. And as a Lotus fan myself, it's been quite frustrating to see the struggles Lotus have had over the winter. The first warning sign came when they chose to skip the first test at Jerez, and they've also lost some key members of the team since last season, like, well, for example, team principal Eric Boulier, who went to McLaren. And Lotus just look underprepared, to be honest, and I'm not sure if it's due to financial issues, technical issues, or maybe something else, or a mix of everything. But either way, it's a shame to see the team that was arguably the second quickest team at the end of last season now looking completely off the ball. And it doesn't help for me that Maldonado is one of their drivers either, because I'm not particularly a fan of him, but obviously he did bring some much needed financial backing. But I gotta feel a bit sorry for Grosjean, who looked to be on the rise last season, and he'll now seemingly have to deal with a struggle with a poor car. Lotus do of course have the potential in the team to get through their troubles and move up the grid, but I think they're too far behind at the moment to get any higher than 8th come the end of the season. Next on my list of teams is Sauber. I don't really know what to say about them, to be honest, as they've just been really anonymous during testing. But general impression is that they look further off the pace than last season when Hülkenberg was dragging their car to some great results, and I think they won't be anything more than an unspectacular mid-table team for the most part this season. They might score a few points here and there when Sutil and Gutierrez have a good day, but I think that's about it. So on to number 6, where I put Force India. I keep being impressed by what the Force India team produce with quite limited resources, as far as I'm aware anyway, and I think it looks like they've taken some steps forward again this season. Testing suggested that their car can be competitive, but I would still class them as a solid mid-table team. A big plus in my book is that they've now got Nico Hülkenberg back as a driver, who was one of my drivers of the season last year, and I'm surprised he didn't end up in a bigger team than Force India. And they also got Sergio Perez, who showed at Sauber that he has got talent, and now also has a season with a big team under his belt at McLaren, even if that didn't go too well. So it's an exciting driver lineup for Force India, and I think they'll be able to get into the points on a regular basis, but there's still a little way to go up to the front-running teams for them. Moving into the top 5, and in 5th I put Williams, and this was a very difficult choice, to be honest, and may come as a bit of a surprise given their very impressive showing in winter testing, where they got the fastest overall lap time of the Bahrain tests with Felipe Massa, and also racked up the second most amount of mileage of any team. The team looks very confident, and for this season they've got the experience of the revitalized Felipe Massa on board as well. And they look to have made a great deal by exchanging the Renault engine for the Mercedes package ahead of this season. Mercedes obviously looking the strongest package at the moment in terms of the power units. The reason I've placed Williams in 5th and not higher is that while they seem likely to get a great start to the season and are one of the main contenders for the Australian Grand Prix, I'm not sure if they'll have the resources to match the top teams when it comes to the development race throughout the season, and I predict them to possibly fall off a bit eventually. It would of course be great though if Williams can actually challenge for wins again this season like they did in the old days. I think that's something that very many fans would like to see. Moving on to 4th place, and there I've got McLaren. Well, they seem to have improved from their horrific 2013 season, by their standards anyway. I think they're still a bit off where they want to be, to be honest. It's a team in a transitional year in a way, as they're waiting for their engine deal with Honda to kick in from 2015. But McLaren is a resourceful team, and I expect them to improve as the season goes on. They could well be in with a shout of winning a few races this season if their car is reliable. And it was kind of touch and go really as to whether I wanted to put McLaren above Williams or not, but ultimately I think the drivers could be the deciding factor in that battle. And in my opinion, Button is a better driver than Massa, and I think Kevin Magnussen has got more potential than Valtteri Bottas. So in 3rd place I've got the pre-season strugglers Red Bull, and based on pre-season alone you'd have to call me an absolute idiot for placing Red Bull this high in my predictions, but my reasoning really is that you just can't count out the 4 consecutive time champions. They had massive problems in testing with a car that kept breaking down, and they didn't show any kind of good pace either, but a team with the success of Red Bull will surely find a way to bounce back, especially with Adrian Newey still on board working on the car. I think their season really depends on how quick that the bounce back happens for them. It could take one race or it could take half the season, I'm not sure, but I'm just so sure that it will bounce back. I'm not saying this as a Red Bull fan, because I'm not, and like many other fans out there, I'm quite happy to see Vettel and Red Bull not dominating the timesheets for once, and it's one of the many things that kind of makes this season look particularly interesting. It's too easy to get our hopes up too much, of course, but due to their early struggles, I think this will indeed be the season when Red Bull and Vettel finally don't end up on top, and I think they'll end up as the 3rd best team come the end of the season. So into the top 2 now, and given the 2 teams I've yet to talk about, I guess there's no surprise that Ferrari is the next team up. The Ferrari looks consistently strong, as you'd expect, but still not lightning fast. The overall best lap times from Bahrain show Alonso as 1 second off the best time, with Kimi Räikkönen a further 1.2 seconds behind him. But with a driver lineup consisting of 2 former world champions on paper, I guess the strongest driver pairing out of any team, you have to consider Ferrari in the running for the championship. It'll be interesting to see how Kimi and Fernando get along as teammates though, because I'm pretty sure none of them will want to be the number 2 driver in that team. But I think with the experience they've got, they'll remain professional and get that Ferrari as high up in the standings as possible, which I think will be second. So then only one team remaining, and it's not exactly a shocker. Mercedes is the team I've tipped for first place this season. And they may have lost Ross Brawn, but they've brought in a lot of technical staff from other teams, and have just looked like the best team throughout winter testing right off the bat. They had both the drivers within a few hundredths of the fastest lap time in the Bahrain tests, and they've completed the most mileage of any team in pre-season. And of course, testing doesn't always give an accurate representation of what will happen in the season, but Mercedes are the odds-on favourites for the title at the moment and genuinely look like the team to beat. Christian Horner has even got his troll face out and said that Mercedes could end up lapping the whole field in Australia. I think that sounds a little bit extreme, but I certainly think one of their drivers will win the race, given that the cars don't blow up, of course. I think this could well be another Brawn GP experience for the Mercedes team, except this time of course without Brawn himself. So here we have an overview of the predictions that have just gone through. In my head that looks like a quite reasonable list, to be honest, based on the situation that has occurred so far in before the season. But it'll certainly be interesting to go back to this video after the season is over and see how much wrong I had, I guess, and compare it to what the actual final standings in the Constructors Championship was. And like I said, I'm interested to see your guys' predictions as well, so if you have a different list to mine, or even if you have the same one, just leave it in the comments and I'll take a look and maybe we can discuss some F1. So then, here is a list that was a bit more difficult to put up, because, you know, the drivers, you never know really who's going to have a good season, who's going to be on form, and who's going to have a bad year, but I've done my best to try and set up a 22 driver order for what I think it will be the drivers' standings at the end of the season. It really is impossible to predict, you know, comfortably at this stage of the season before any races are taking place, of course. But I do think that while the team battle between Hamilton and Rosberg will be closer than maybe what some people think, I think it will be very close between them. But in the end, I think that Lewis Hamilton has got a drive going into this season. He seems on it at the moment, and we know that Lewis likes a car that is a bit slidey at the rear end, and that is exactly the kind of car that the new 2014 car seems to be like. So I think this season will suit Hamilton more than the previous few seasons, where tyre wear and things like that has been more in focus. So my prediction is that Lewis Hamilton will take the title this year, backing up the statement, of course, that Mercedes looks like the best constructor at the moment. In third, I put Alonso, because he is just such a solid driver, such a great driver, possibly even the greatest on the grid, in my opinion. I think he will beat Raikkonen in the Ferrari teammate battle. So I put Raikkonen in fifth, and in between them I put Sebastian Vettel. I think when Red Bull get their pace together and their reliability together, I think they will become a force to reckon with again at some point during the season. And I think Vettel, with 4 straight championships on the trot now in the previous seasons, I think he will continue to be strong, but obviously not win the championship this season. It's what I'm both hoping and thinking at the moment. No disrespect to him, but I'd like to see a different champion this time around. Then in 6th and 7th I've put the 2 McLaren drivers, and I've gone out on a bit of a limb by stating that Kevin Magnussen will beat Jenson Button in the championship this season, and this could very well backfire, but I will stick to that statement that I made on Harrison 101's Around the Corner show last week, and that's why I put it like that. In 8th I think Ricciardo. I think he'll have a bit of a difficult first season at Red Bull, first time in a team that should, you know, challenge for wins. I think he'll be solid there, but I think he'll have a bit of a rough start. And Felipe Massa, obviously driving for Williams now, who are looking on great form, but like I said, I think they will fall off a bit towards, further into the season. Massa, I think he will finish 9th. Then Nico Hülkenberg, a great driver, driving for a mid-table team, you gotta say, unless Force India surprises. Then the second Williams driver in Valtteri Bottas. I think he's got good speed, but that he won't quite match the experience of Massa this season. Then the second Force India of Sergio Perez, and then followed by the 2 Saubers. Then I think Roman Grosjean will finish in 15th after Lotus get their act together. I think he'll score a few points, but unfortunately I think Lotus season, it just looks doomed at the moment. I can't really see he getting much higher unless something drastically changes there quickly. Which is a shame, of course, because Grosjean showed last season that he has great speed in him. Then the two Toro Rosso drivers, and then Maldonado, who I just don't think will do very well. And then the usual suspects at the back with the Mauritius and the Caterhams. So yeah, this again could be completely wrong, of course, but we shall see at the end of the season when we go back and revisit this video. And it's of course nearly impossible, to be honest, to predict at this point. The only thing I know for certain is that it should be a very interesting season ahead. Lots of changes, some bad, some good, I guess, but certainly interesting it shall be. So yeah, there we have my predictions for this season's F1 Championship, and that's really all I've got for this video. It's the first time I've done this kind of video on my channel, talking about real F1, so feel free to let me know in the comments what you thought of me doing this, and leave a like on the video. If you did like it, that would make me very happy indeed. I do hope that I'll be able to get this video up before the actual Australia qualifying happens. I will certainly try my best, and then I can sit back and enjoy the action kicking off around Melbourne, and I'm sure you guys will as well. So thanks a lot for watching this video and seeing my predictions. We'll see how badly I did in 8 months time, I guess, but until next video guys, goodbye.